I'd like to welcome each one of you to our devotional study today. We are going to pick up our study in Daniel chapter 2. In this chapter, we have seen that Nebuchadnezzar dreams a dream, and he is troubled by the dream, but yet at the same time, he cannot remember the dream. And he demands of the sorcerers, astrologers, people like that in his kingdom that they would not only tell him the interpretation, but that they would tell him the dream. Now, some believe that he really did not remember the dream. Others believe that he understood that these sorcerers and astrologers were the scam artists that they were. In whichever way that is, it really does not matter. They were not able to reveal the dream to him. As a matter of fact, they said there is not a man on the earth that can do this. The only one that could do that would be the one who would be connected to the true God, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And Daniel becomes aware of it when we see that all of the wise men and astrologers were going to be put to death because they could not get the dream. Now notice what it says in verses 24 through 35. It says, "Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went in and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou shouldest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, and the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth." So we see here that Daniel comes in confidence. And it's very obvious that Daniel's confidence is not in himself. Daniel's confidence is in the Lord. You know, it's interesting that the magicians and those people said, "Oh, king, it's not possible for us to do this. As a matter of fact, it's not possible for anybody to do this." And then, in the end of verse 24, Daniel says, I will show. And then he gets to verse 36 and he says, this is the dream. He's very confident in what he is saying. And the reason that he is confident is not because of himself, but it is because of the God that he serves. And he had prayed to God fervently. He had prayed to God in faith, and God had revealed the answer to him. It's very interesting, actually, to see the contrast here. Daniel said to Arioch, take me before the king, in verse 24. Then notice Arioch trying to take credit for the guy in verse 25. And Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. It's almost like he's saying, listen, I looked long and hard through the various people, and I was able to find this guy, and Arioch is trying to take the credit for him. He did not find Daniel. Daniel had come to him. And Daniel is just the complete opposite. Because the king answers and says to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? And Daniel does not take credit for himself. He says, Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king. Daniel is making abundantly clear here that the answer is not coming from men. The answer is coming from God. Notice what he says in verse 28. He says, there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the last days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. He's saying very clearly, Nebuchadnezzar, this is not a man that is revealing it to you. There is a God in heaven that is revealing this, and he is giving me the ability to tell me exactly what your thoughts were, what your dreams were. And in verses 29 and 30, he mentions the thoughts of Nebuchadnezzar's heart, and he says, this is the dream that you have dreamed. And then in verse 31, he begins to unpack this great image. And as we move down through this, and we're not going to look at it in great detail today, because as we get to the last 13, 14 verses of this chapter, it's going to reveal to us the image and what each one of these pieces means and how and what it signifies. But we see this great image that is made of 4 kinds of metal. There is gold and silver and brass and iron. And as you look at this image, you understand that it is decreasing in weight and costliness from head to toe. The most valuable thing is gold, then silver, then brass, and then iron. We see also that it increases in strength from head to toe as you look at this image. And we notice that it is an image that is top heavy, and it is resting on a very weak footing or foundation. And we'll look at all of those things, and we will see the significance of them as we zoom in on the image and focus in on it and see what Daniel has to say about what it represents in verses 36 through 49. So we'll not get ahead of ourselves in looking at that today. We just want to catch the highlights of these verses. Then the Bible in verse 34 talks about a smiting stone. It says, thou sawest till there was a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and break them in pieces. He says it is cut without hands. Now, we're going to see that that is signifying a supernatural act. It is not an act of man. It is an act of God. And we're going to notice that this smiting stone that is cut without hands smashes the image. And then we see the great mounting in verse 35. It says, then was the clay, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, and the silver, and the gold broken in pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. We read that verse saying, and this great mountain filling the whole earth, and we say, man, this is kind of unusual. Well, we don't have to be left in the dark as to what he is referring to here. Keep in mind, the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. And if we just simply read a little bit further in Daniel chapter 2 and study it out, we're going to find out that Daniel explains exactly what is being looked at here. But the important thing that we want to notice today is God reveals through Daniel the dream in detail of not only what he has dreamed, but also of the fulfillment of that dream, which is another reminder to us, as we've already seen a couple of times in the book of Daniel, that absolutely nothing is impossible with God. The things that the astrologers and the sorcerers and the wise men could not do, the God in heaven was able to reveal through Daniel. Praise God that the God of heaven is the God of all wisdom. Have a great day.